Ming Chuan University's E202 Musical Hall recently hosted Divya Gopalan, Director of International Coverage at TaiwanPlus, who shared her journalism expertise with MCU students. The event explored practical topics including mentorship, networking strategies, and maintaining well-being in journalism's demanding environment.
What advice would you give people to gaining a proper mentor to help further their career?
One of the things I'll tell you what not to do is just assume that if you decide and you identify a mentor, to think that they're there for you, just for what you need. It's a give and take. So the way to identify good mentors is, particularly in your workplace, and they may not be your direct boss, but one, it's someone you feel you can learn from, and two, that's open to communicating with you, using a show or the editor of a paper, who you feel like really knows their stuff, you admire what they do, and they're quite friendly. You can, and often that is key, right? You can't assume that everyone wants to be a mentor. You go up to them and you say, "Listen, I kind of admire what you do. I would love to learn more from you. Would you mind if every now and then I take you for a coffee and you can give me some advice?" And then in the same breath, you should also say, "How can I also help you in that sense?" Because, again, they owe you nothing. And I think that's the key to remember. So if they feel that you're willing to learn. And again, if they give you advice, make sure you take their advice, or you're responding to their advice. It may not be something you completely agree with, then you talk to them about it. But for a mentor, again, which I have done this for a number of people, if I feel like I'm giving you advice and I'm trying my hardest to help you in your career and all this, but you're really just kind of happy to ask me the questions and take up my time, but you're not really taking what I say on board, it's really off-putting for a mentor, and they're less likely to want to do it. So one, identify a person that you feel like you could connect with, that you feel like you can learn from, and two, approach them in a way where they understand that you will take what they say on board, and two, you will also be able to reciprocate in some way.
What advice would you give in building like a proper solid connection and foundation?
Yeah. Do you know what? The easiest thing to begin with is saying thank you and nice to meet you. And as a young reporter or journalist, I would encourage you to go to a lot of events where you're going to be exposed to a lot of people and meet a lot of people. You go up to them, you say hello. "Oh, I really liked this thing you did, or read this piece on you." Get their name card. And once you do, the first thing you do when you get back is message them and say, "So nice to meet you. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me." Already you've established that connection. You've already found a way. And for that other person, it suddenly, it feels like you are someone that they want to talk to and communicate with, because you've shown some initiative. Again, it could be your peer or it could be someone else. Find a reason to say, "Listen, it would be great to go for a coffee. There's this event happening. I noticed you were interested in Mongolian art. Would you like to go with me?" Or, just finding a connection, just the way. It doesn't have to be at the friendship level, but I think it's just connecting to begin with. And you don't have to see them every week, and then checking in on people every now and then, you make that connection and then be like, "Oh, do you remember you were talking about human rights? I saw this article that might interest you." Send it to them. So just keeping people on your radar, I think that's a very good way of networking and connecting. And then you'll see them at different events again. And when you do, have that conversation again, and let it happen organically. It's like making friends. There's no way of forcing it.
Yeah. On the line of career, as you know, this modern day culture, well, work culture, it's about grinding and just completely hustling, but that can easily lead to burnout. And you gave a lot of advice in this presentation. What advice would you give to basically a young budding journalist or even a media personnel on finding that path to build that career that actually suits them?
The one thing I have to say is, in the start of your career, you're going to have to work hard, and I feel like I sacrificed a lot of work-life balance, especially in the news industry. And you're going to have to, if you really, really want to make it. It's not a 9 to 5 job. It's not a Monday to Friday. You never know when it's going to happen. So in that case, yes, you are going to burn out to a certain extent. The second thing is, take holidays. It's really, really important. Often we kind of say, put them off and put them off and put them off. No, if you've got something planned, go do it. Go, if you planned a holiday, just go take it. Don't say, "Oh, so-and-so short staffed this week, maybe I'll give it up." Don't do that. And then finally, I would say, listen to your body, listen to yourself. That's the main thing. You know when you're hitting a wall, and when you do, then take time out for yourself. But the other thing, have a good routine, eat well, exercise, like just the stuff that just keeps you healthy and strong. I know this is just so basic, but it's amazing how much it applies to your daily life as a journalist.
On the lines of being a journalist, we are taught that we basically have to be objective and we have to keep a distance from like a story. And what will happen? What happens when that story becomes you? For example, there was an incident where a lady was reporting on a school shooting and her son was in that school. What balance does a journalist have to take?
Oh my God, I'm a mom and I can't imagine that. And I kind of, there are two ways of doing it. It depends on what kind of a journalist you are. Again, there's no clear answer for everything. If you're the kind of journalist who feel that this is going to help other people and the other parents out there and other people who've dealt with this, if I tell my story and say my kid is there, but then do it. But if you're the kind of journalist who know that you can't and you don't want this kind of attention on you, especially at such a personal time, step back. There's no right or wrong way of doing this. You've got to trust yourself. The best advice I can give you is you know yourself best and you know your gut. And a lot of the times you just have to trust yourself. And it's that gut that will keep you out of danger. There's a situation you're going to go report in it, but something's telling you something's not right. Listen to your gut. And that's for many, many parts of journalism. And I think we forget to do that because we're worried about what our bosses will say. We're worried about this. But at the end of the day, you know yourself best.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us today. It was really nice to hear from you, Divya. I do hope you have a wonderful evening.
Thank you very much, Cherish. It's a pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you all.